Today, I am pleased and privileged to be able to share with you an interview that I made with Carl from Divimath this morning. If you don't know who Carl is, he is the main person behind HDZero. Not only is he the designer of the main HDZero ASIC, but he is the company owner too. Carl very kindly gave me just over an hour of his time, and today I am really pleased to be able to share that interview with you. We discuss everything from the current situation with HDZero, as well as what's possibly around the corner, maybe some hints on what his plans are for the next revision of the system, and we even address some of the things that have been brought up recently around dealer margins and some of the comments that have been made by other people as well. I really do hope you find this interesting, because for me it was an absolute privilege, and I do just want to say I am so grateful for the time Carl has given. He is genuinely one of the nicest and open people I have ever had the privilege of talking to in FPV, and I really can't stress enough from me personally how much of a joy it was to spend some time talking to him. Anyway, let's get on with the video. I really do hope you enjoy it. It's going to be just over an hour long. There is a lot in here to digest, so let's get on with it. Carl, first of all, I want to thank you for joining me today. It's a massive privilege to have you on the channel. I know you're a very, very busy man. And yeah, how's things? How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
For me, it's a privilege because I am a technical guy. Okay, not remotely like you are. And I try to straddle that. I want to know everything down to the detail, but try and be able to explain that to people as well. And I know that, you know, whilst you are the company, you are Divimath and HDZero, you are an engineer as well, aren't you? Primarily, that's your background.
Yes, yeah.
How are you finding it at the moment, being both parts of the cake, I suppose? You know, you developed the ASIC yourself, didn't you? Well, you drew out the ASIC yourself?
Yes, from the idea.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I was playing like the HTC Vive, the VR goggle.
Okay.
And I think maybe I can do something to get rid of the no USB HDMI cable.
Okay.
Right. That needs a low latency video transceiver. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, because it's funny, isn't it, in this digital world we found ourselves in, that we sort of swapped one set of cables for another. You know, it was SCART, it was S-Video, then it was SCART, and you had like 4 SCART cables behind the TV, and then it was HDMI. And that natural evolution is removing that layer completely, isn't it? And I suppose Wi-Fi started to be that, but it's not really the full solution.
Right. So the video thing, you better to compress it first, because the bandwidth is huge. So even with the wine, it's too much data. But even wireless, it's kind of more stressful. But if you need the low latency video, that's even more difficult.
It is a challenge, you know, and look, it's been a huge year from my point of view for HDZero. It's from where you were 12 months ago. Just thinking back over the top of my head, I think we've had 4 VTXs. We've now got the new VRX module. You've had the announcement on the goggles, and we'll walk through these in a minute. How is it for you? Are you where you wanted to be right now, or was there not even a plan to be here, in fact?
Right. So it's a hard time. And it's really the collaboration between Divimath and FPV community. So I need to thank everyone who encouraged me and helping me guide through this dark time.
It's the FPV community is one of them. We tend to welcome people with open arms, but there is a flip side to that as well, that we also at times demand excellence, and we forget that everything we do is on the cutting edge. It's the Formula One of everything almost, isn't it? You know, this weight, the latency. What was it you thought with the video when you saw it for FPV? What made you think it was ideal HDZero, Carl?
Well, so when I first designed the HDZero, I think it has to be low weight, meaning the typical way using compression or decompression that will use a lot of computing power, either done by the circuit. The H.264, it's a big circuit. For the encoding and the decoding, you need the DDR. And also you need a powerful CPU like the ARM to babysitting it. So that's way too much for me. So I want to do a low weight, meaning consuming less power and less complex solution for that. That's my goal. That's the primary target for that. I don't want to that complex like a compression or decompression plus the powerful CPU that way. I don't.
No, and you know, it's quite unusual because, you know, you have your own ASIC and that comes with difficulties in itself. Just having that manufactured isn't a simple task, is it? You know, it's not. It's much easier to get design software to run off something that someone else has made. You haven't taken the easy road, is probably the right term to use, going down your own ASIC route.
Well, yeah. So I'm an ASIC guy. So after I graduate, I started doing the ASIC. So everything I start to think is design my own ASIC.
Okay.
So that's, I don't know if it's good or bad, but but as of today, I don't see the vital solution for using the current ASIC to the low latency or fixed latency video transceiver. I think that's the only way.
Yeah, and you know, there are other projects out there like OpenHD. You might have heard of that or seen that, which is, you know, they're very much the express LRS of digital video. They're trying to take off the shelf silicon and use that, but we're already seeing the difficulties of that. You know, there's just, whether it be packaging size, latency, it's not able to get to where you're at today.
Exactly. I admire what they are doing, and I'm surprised the progress they have been made. But as I have said, because you cannot control the physical layer, I mean, even bit by bit, you are limited. Because we are doing not like the zero latency, say not zero, but it's close to zero. This kind of thing, you need to control everything precisely. So if you only have a Wi-Fi file and you have the controller to control the file, so basically you cannot do what you want. That's my point. Yeah. So
and the current system exists of, we have the main ASIC, which is the Divimath, and there's a second chipset as well, isn't it? Is that the RF side of things, the second chipset?
Right. So I have done more than you think. So basically the IC is divided into two things. One is called IF modulator and IF demodulator. The other one is called baseband, is baseband modulator and demodulator. On the transmitter side, basically we get the video, we do the baseband, then we do the IF modulator. On the receiver side, we do the side reverse, right? We do the IF demodulator, and we do the baseband demodulator. Then we do the video processing.
Okay.
So for the Sharkbite, I was using the IF demodulator is the ADI chipset.
Okay.
Right. And my first chip is a baseband. It's called DM5680. That chip is the baseband demodulator and the baseband modulator too. I combined the baseband modulator and demodulator into one chip.
Okay.
So, right, that's for the shock bite. But right now, if you look at the VTX, you will find a chip is called DM6300.
Yes.
That is called IF modulator. So I have the I'm sorry. I have the baseband modulator is DM5680. The data stream goes to DM6300. That is the IF modulator, then goes to PA.
Okay.
Right, that's the whole path. The current HDZero VRX, I'm not using the ADI chipset anymore. I'm using my own. It's called DM6302.
Okay.
That's the IF demodulator, goes to my IF baseband demodulator is called 5680. Yeah. So those three chips is all defined Divimath. We have spent close to $10 million.
Wow. Okay.
On those three chips. Yeah.
Wow. And this is the thing. We all assume the ASIC. Everyone sits here and we know the main ASIC. But you, as you've said, you've done a lot more than that we haven't seen. You mentioned
right.
the new VRX there. So obviously that's coming to the market. It's taken some time for people to be able to get their hands on it. HDZero for a while because of the shortness of supply of the SharkBite unit. This new chipset is in that VRX then, you were saying?
Right, is this one, yeah.
Okay.
This one. Yeah. So this one is to replace the ADI chipset. So I have a Silicon office. We have 4 people there. They have been working there since 2019 for 3.5 years. We tap out twice. Each tap out cost me $1 US. $1 million US. Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
So how have you found producing new silicone in this current market? Because as we've had a mass chip shortage, has that been a challenge for you as well?
Well, the reason I do the baseband, I have to do that, as I said. If I want to do the low latency, I have to control the file, my own file, very precisely. Every millisecond, how much data I need to transfer and how to transfer into each carrier. I need to precisely control that. So that's baseband. But the IF chipset, so I was using the ADI chipset. That was $20. No, even $30. Let's say $30. It was $30 when I do the bite frost. And for the shock bite, it's $30 for the IF modulator. Right. But that's before the pandemic, right? It's that expensive. I don't think the system can afford that. So that's why in 2019, I start a team to develop this IF modulator and demodulator. Yeah. That's after almost 4 years, 3.5 years, we have 2 chips. One is called IF modulator, one is called IF demodulator. So that's 4 people in Silicon Valley, spend around 3.5 years and almost $5 million US to do that.
Wow. And I suppose what that does is give you security and control moving forward then.
Right. You think about the $30 ADI chip, that's before the pandemic. Right now is around $60. If I count those kind of chips, there's no HDZero. It's not feasible.
There's a Mipi chipset as well, isn't there? Or an interface chipset for the camera to the ASIC, isn't there? Is that your own as well, or is that not worth producing yourself?
Right. That Mipi chip is from Toshiba.
Okay.
It's a Toshiba semiconductor. And that chip, it's not expensive. It's not cheap, but it's not expensive either. It's around like $3. Well, I made a mistake. I should integrate that one into our baseband chip. That will be less footprint and less expensive. That's that's what I'm doing now. Yeah.
Hindsight is what that one is, yeah. But it's not something that's causing you any problems. So as you say, it's not something you need to run out. So in the future then, would you envisage any future chipsets to try and bring these 3 into one, or at least 2 into one?
Oh, well, that's so obvious, right? So right now I have 2 chips. One is a baseband, one is a IF. Each one is 10 by 10. But to me, it's no brainer to put them together, right? That's everybody will do, and put the Mipi chip together too. So in the VTX, you will see only one chip will do everything. That's right, but that's one of my targets. But that's a very simple one. I'm thinking of something big. I need to do a next generation. Right now, I'm doing the next generation transceiver, so it will, have more resolution and have higher frame rate and better RF signal performance. That's what I'm doing. So if you just integrate those 3 into one, there's no need for me. So I want to do something for the second generation. Yeah.
I see. That's the engineer in you, that is. So really, as you say, the term we'd use for that would be, I'm just trying to think what the optimization someone else can do, which is bringing them together and, making the package smaller. But you want to work on the next stage, the next generation of what HDZero can be.
That's right, because I have seen so many videos on the YouTube. At some point, I think this can be improved.
Yeah.
And some say, oh, this is good enough. I say, no, this is not good enough. And this is something I can improve. But something I can improve with the firmware fix, but something I can't.
No.
But I want to fix it with my second generation chip. I think it will be powerful. I'm very happy to do that. Yeah.
It sounds
I'm an
good.
engineer, right?
Yeah, you always want to push the boundaries. That's the
right.
thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you were talking about resolution. What are your thoughts? Are we talking 1080p? Are we talking 4K? What's your thoughts on resolution? Because I know you've said the current system can do, if I'm right, 1080p 30 is what you've said. So what are you thinking? 1080p 60 or even beyond?
Right. I'm talking about 1080p 60.
Okay. Yeah.
And sometimes so for the FPV community, sometimes like the racer, they don't need higher resolution, but they prefer a higher frame rate.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the targets for that.
That's one of the targets. Because I'm right in saying the current system wasn't designed for FPV, was it? Your goal was low latency wireless video, not specifically low latency wireless video for FPV.
Exactly. So my second generation chip is not only for FPV, it's for many things. For remote driving, for projecting. Yeah, it's not only for FPV. FPV market is a niche market, very unique, but it's not big enough.
No, and that's something I've discussed on the channel before with people is, for a business to be viable, okay, the FPV is full of cheap hardware and free software for the most part. If we look at flight controllers, Express LRS, there are amazing projects which are open source, but from a hardware point of view, the companies who are making the hardware are heavily benefiting from that cheap free software. They're able to just produce a hardware at mass and push it out, whereas you're trying to do both. And this does sort of lead us nicely on to the open source thing you mentioned. I'll come back to the VRX in a minute because I want to talk to you about that. But you've mentioned about you want to open source some parts of HDZero software. Can you explain that a bit more?
Oh, right. So remember, I'm an ASIC guy. So I have made more than, at least 10 successful ASICs. So all these ICs, they need a driver. All those drivers are open source. Meaning I sell a chip, right? I need to give them the reference design how to drive this chip, right? For the FPV community, it's kind of, I think that my two observations. So the first one is the pilots. Most of pilots are engineers. They are very motivated and hands-on, and they are willing to contribute. So that's very unique. The other one is that most of the FPV manufacturers are in China, and they are weak on the R&D, but they are very strong in manufacturing. So take an example of EOIS. So EOIS is using the chipset from Semtech, and the EOIS development team, they have some talented guy like Wesley Varity. So they do the firmware very good. And also they have like Happy Model. They do the hardware for them. I think it's a perfect combination. Back to HDZero, I want to be the Semtech in the EOI side. I provide the chipset and open source everything. Somebody, they can contribute like based on the chipset. Like Semtech provide the ASIC, Wesley Varity, those guys doing the software, and Happy Model doing the hardware, right? So for the HDZero, I think Divimath provides the HDZero chipset, and we provide some open source. Some guy will develop on it, and the manufacturers will manufacture the VTX and the VRX or something. That's what I'm thinking about the open source for HDZero.
And allow people just like an Express LRS to sort of take it forward and do what we don't think of, I suppose, isn't it? It's the things we don't think of or have the time to do.
Exactly. I think it's not only I don't have time to do, and I think my vision limited my imagination, right? So yeah. I'm an ASIC guy. I better focus on ASIC.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's really good to see, and for me, it just shows the path of HDZero and the future path for it as well, where we can see where it is today, and I'm really looking forward to where that goes. It was a really good announcement to see. With this new VRX, I want to swing back around to that. You said obviously that's coming. I think you guys are in manufacture right now with the VRX, aren't you? And it's got the new chipset. We've got the antennas have gone, and we've now 4 SMAs. Is there any benefits to this new chipset on the new VRX?
They look similar. They have similar performance. Right. The patch antenna is gone, but the patch antenna, it's, well, I get some requirement suggestion from the pilots. They prefer 4 SMAs because they can put patch antenna on their own. That's why we have the antenna reel. They can put the patch antenna on. But I understand it will add some cost for acquiring those antennas. Yeah, that's one of the disadvantages.
Yeah, I suppose what you're giving is more options. On the flip side, it adds cost on the front end a little bit. How does it? Is it strictly diversity? And I have spoke to you about this before, Carl, but as I've got you, I'd rather you explained it. How does the VRX choose what SMA to use? What is it? Diversity? What is the logic behind the selection of antenna?
Well, it's a little bit hard to explain. So basically, we have 4 antennas. The left 2 is a group. The right 2 is a group. So the left 2, so we have 2 OFDM demodulator inside.
Okay.
And OFDM demodulator will get the constellation data. Each one will get the constellation data. And we will, it's called MRC, is the maximum ratio combining those constellation data into one, and we decode those data into video data. So that's from the left part. And the right part do the same thing. The right part gets the video, and the left part gets the video, and the video combined in the FPGA chip.
Okay.
Right. So that's basically how the full antenna works.
Okay, so it's not strictly picking a 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's actually bringing all of this data in, and it's actually demodulating, bringing it right down into the RF side before combining as well.
That's right. You just can say the each pixel. Let's say, okay, each pixel maybe take like some data from one antenna and some data from the other. Yeah. So full antenna controls. Yeah. Every antenna contributes.
Wow.
Not like a hard switch.
No. And in the past, we're used to diversity being very basic on antennas and receivers. So it's far more complex. And that, I suppose that explains why it's so important to populate all the antenna ports, because you're bringing in more data to the system.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's cool. So the VRX is shipping now. Obviously, there's been a bit of a change on size. You've had to change the FPGA, I believe you've said, on it as well.
Oh, well, okay. So you don't believe this story. Before the pandemic, the FPGA, the Xenix Spartan 6, that FPGA is around $20.
Okay.
Right. You know the FPGA, the current price is? Yeah. You can imagine.
Yeah.
It's $400 US. So
I have looked. Yeah, that's
right.
incredible.
$20 to 400. That's 20 times up. So the VRX I'm selling is $220 US, right? But that single chip is $200 US. But I'm a lucky man, really. Yeah, I'm a really lucky man. About a year ago, when I go back to United States, I have a coworker. He have a startup. He's doing the FPGA. He just has the FPGA come out, but the FPGA is a first revision, right? It's not good enough. So my team helped him, and we use his FPGA as a replacement of the Xenix. It's a hard time, but it takes about 1 year to use that FPGA. So I'm a lucky man. So with the FPGA right now, we have a replacement.
So, wow. And so in fact, you could almost argue that this is more of your, and Divimath's and your friends' development in the system. It's less off the shelf and more new, really.
Exactly. So the new VRX, it looks like the same. The performance is similar, but I don't even believe what I have checked. We have the new RF demodulated chip. So we tap out only twice on this RF chip. It works. It's a magic. And the other one, I'm lucky enough to have a FPGA, replacement. So luckily, without those two things, I cannot make VRX anymore. So that's why I say I'm a lucky man.
It must have been challenging this last 12 months for everyone, which we know it has been with the chip shortage and the pandemic affecting prices. I suppose for you, it's your core skill that has allowed this to continue, Carl, which is you develop ASICs. For any other company, they would be in real trouble right now, I guess, if they didn't have that capability.
Exactly. But FPGA, I'm sorry, FPV community, I mean, as I said, FPV manufacturer, they're using the mature ASIC to do a lot of things. And most of the FPGA manufacturers, they are, I say most of them, they are good at manufacturing, but not the R&D, not to mention making the ASICs. That's a different story.
Yeah, it must have been hard, So we've got the VRX done. That's heading out the door very shortly. You've also delivered the new Freestyle VTX as well. And then, out of the blue, I will add, the 1S Whoop VTX and Camera, which from my point of view is just astonishing how good the image quality is on that. And I'll come on to the Whoop one in a minute, because I think you've done some magic with that, because I was watching Ryan's video and I just couldn't believe how good that small camera looked with HDZero in that small package. But we now have the Freestyle, which is the up to 1 watt. That was not a long development because you guys did it very quickly, even though it seemed to take a while. What was the biggest challenge with that? I'm guessing it was heat.
Okay. So the 1 watt VTX, I take 7 iterations. So the 6th iteration, it's what's on the market. It supports 2S to 4S. The 7th is 6S we are shipping right now. So the biggest challenge is the heat. Right. And the digital is very different with analog. Analog easily can go up to 1 watt because it's a single carrier. But we are using the OFDM, is multiple carrier. We are using 1024 carriers with OFDM. That's called PSPR. It's PAPR. It's a little bit challenging for those PAs. So that's why the digital, it's very difficult to have a larger, have a bigger, higher IF output. And the IF converting efficiency is lower. That's why it has so much heat. Right. So it's very challenging for us for making this 1 watt VTX. It takes, 7th iteration. It's unbelievable. It's very hard for us. Maybe it's because of my ability is not good enough. Yeah, but it's hard for me.
I think 7 is pretty good compared to some of the things I've done. I can promise you that. You said there's a new 6S version coming as well. Is that just to replace the 4S one, and it will just replace it as a manufacturing version?
Right. Yeah. Right. Actually, the 2S, 4S version. So our target is 6, but we made a mistake.
Okay.
So it becomes 4S. Yeah. It's because of our stupid mistake. Yeah, we will fix that on the current release is 6S.
Yeah. It's there's always more we want, isn't there? But no, I've got one, it's here, it's in this, I've flown it, and I think, I honestly think it is the game changer in many ways for HDZero. And whilst, there will always be comparison with DJI, but that comparison has always been at 1200 milliwatts. The reality was that system was pushing high power, and it does work differently. They are different systems. They have different behaviors. DJI does two-way link, packet retries. It has the ability to send the data again, whereas it loses latency, whereas your system is fixed latency. It doesn't matter what's going on. That latency has a ceiling and it doesn't go above that. But I honestly felt, having flown it extensively, it is fundamentally stepping the system forward. It now feels more like what we've had with the penetration and the range from analog and digital and the other digital systems. And there's nothing in it anymore. There really isn't anything in it.
Thank you, Ying. It's really encouraging me. So thank you.
Yeah, it was a big one for me. I haven't made my review on it yet, and it's a bit complicated because where I live, I'm only allowed to fly 25 milliwatts, so I can't possibly comment on what it is like over 25 milliwatts, yet it's changed the way it works. So, yeah, people can read into that one. But it's hard for me.
I want to make a comment on the VTX 1S and the Nanolite camera. So for the camera, all the HDZero camera is made by Runcam.
Yeah.
So I only give them suggestion, and for the control part, I work with them, and I pass the suggestion I get from the pilots. So that's what I do. So the camera, the performance, those kind of things, the credit should go Runcam, not me.
Okay, it is. I'll give it to both sides: the packaging, the size, the weight, the image quality. from where we were at with the 2-board VTX, 2 years ago, and where we're at today. We've got the Whoop 1S. Is the other Whoop board staying, Carl, the bigger one, or are you just going to let that fall off now and stay with the 1S?
Right. I probably will phase out the old Whoop VTX because this VTX supports 1S to 3S. So the current Whoop board works great, but it's easy to break because there's no any protection. But the new 1S to 3S, that Whoop board have shielding, on top and the bottom. I think provide some more protection. So that one, I will just keep this one. Yeah. And I really like this one. This one has a antenna. You can put some like I have a rubber band to tie the antenna. Yeah. And also have the shielding on top and the bottom, and the size is smaller. So that's why I think this Whoop, it's a better one than previous.
Yeah, the image quality, it was just fantastic, and it was like, wow, this is game changing, and it is. You've gone from. And this is like this 12 months I talk about, Carl. In 12 months, we've gone from it being the system felt quite stagnant. Just beyond that, I don't think that's anything to do with you guys, and I think we'll probably talk about that a bit in a minute. And then suddenly we have the Freestyle, we have the Race Version 1, then the Race Version 2, we have the new Whoop board, and now we've got Foxeer as well, who's manufacturing a board for you guys. I've seen that announced this week. So you've got a partner going to be doing boards as well.
So Foxeer and Divimath, we just signed a contract, the agreement. So we already provided the schematic and the layout file to Foxeer, and we provide them the manufacturer instruction to them. So and also we also sign contract with other manufacturers. So don't be surprised by. Some other manufacturers, they will come out the HDZero compatible VTX, but not produced by Divimath. So in the next few months. So basically the VTX is open to anyone, any manufacturers. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you've said in the past, manufacturing was not your goal.
It's not.
It wasn't. So this might be a presumption, but is it now? Are you starting to feel that you were able to allow it to get more manufacturers on board, and then hopefully you guys can sort of step back yourself from the manufacturing of the actual hardware side and allow those to take over?
Exactly. Thank you for explaining this for me. In your English, not in mine. Right. So, okay. So let's think about a scenario. If I don't stand out, listen to the community and do those VTX camera. In past 12 months, HDZero would not exist anymore. So that's why I'm saying I have to make the board. I have to make the camera. But please take those board or camera can only be interpreted as to manufacture this HDZero is a vital solution, right? Not as a stop sign for them to make the VTX. I make the VTX just to show this system is good. Otherwise, this system is dead. It's risk. It's not proving, right? I just want to prove this system. It's almost no risk right now. You can jump in, then I can jump out.
yes. And I like that. So yeah, I can carry on doing what I was doing before and not have to do things like this.
Exactly. I have 30 engineers, and four of them in Silicon Valley.
Okay.
So they are ASIC guy.
Yeah.
They are algorithm guy. So if I ask those algorithm guys to do the manufacturing thing, they won't stay. They will quit.
No, and that, it's not your core business, is it? And that's
why I say. That's why I say let me deliver the second generation chip with more resolution, with a higher frame rate, those kind of things. That's my expertise, right? The manufacturing, replacing a DC-DC converter for a better price, some of things, right? This is not my expertise.
Now, you say that, okay. However, halfway through this year where you've not only delivered multiple VTXs and a new VRX, you stole some of the limelight from Orca as well by announcing your HDZero goggles. So I'm gonna, for a man that doesn't like to make things, Carl, you're keeping yourself very, very busy. But can you tell us a bit more about that? Because you've got everyone very excited, very excited.
Okay, so I did approach SkyZone and Orca and FastShark. So ask them to have a goggle, with HDZero integrated. I didn't get a positive feedback from them. So, right, but I understand their decision. So by that time, I think HDZero is too risky for them. I think so. So I understand, but HDZero need a goggle. Right now, the VRX module in front of the goggle, it's kind of a little bit heavy. So HDZero need a goggle. So I have to nobody do the HDZero goggle for me, so I have to do my own. I don't have a choice. But there is a side story. So as far as I know, the SkyZone and FastShark, the goggle inside, there is a OLED driver chip. It's called TWAA36 or maybe AA45. It's the designer is me. Yeah, I designed I designed that chip in early 2000s in Silicon Valley when I was working for TechRaw. Right now, which was acquired by Intersil, now is Renesas. So that chip was designed for the automotive back camera, right? I don't know people use it for the FPV goggles, yeah, but that driver chip is passing the RGB or AV directly to the display. That's low latency. So you can tell in my whole life I was doing the low latency video transferring, displaying, those kind of things. Yeah. So yeah, back to the HDZero goggle. I have to do the HDZero need a goggle. So basically, my goggle have three things. The first one is the latency. So you said HDZero has a fixed latency, low latency, but I think it's not low enough just because of the goggle. The HDZero technology from the get the video, right? HDZero goggle, no, HDZero system transmitter get the video and the VRX out the video is less than 1 millisecond. So, right. But right now, if you measure the glass to glass latency, camera glass to the goggle glass, that latency is changing. I think is over 15.
Okay.
Right. So.
And that's the layers in between then, that's the right. HDMI and all of that lot, yes.
Right. And it's changing actually. So in the lab right now, because I'm developing the goggle, right? So the latency I have measured from the camera glass to the goggle glass, the latency is fixed to 4 to 6 millisecond latency. It's fixed 4 to 6. Yeah. So that's because I designed the display driver chip, and that display chip is right. So basically, if I design all of them, the whole path from the camera to the display, so the latency right now is 4 to 6. So that's why we need a HDZero goggle. So this is the first reason. The other reason is I talked with Evan Tuner and Nico, those very talented top pilots. They prefer lower resolution but higher frame rate. So the current goggle, SkyZone goggle or FastShark goggle, they support only 60, frame rate is 60 field per second. So I'm thinking maybe 90 I can improve to 90. Yeah. So because the current FPV goggle is supported the analog. Analog is 60 fields per second, which means the goggle it doesn't need to support 90, right? Because there's no source. But for HDZero is different. I am working with someone to come out at 90 frames per second camera, but with lower resolution. And we pass that one, and to the goggle is 90 frames per second. So that's even better than analog. You see what I mean? So if HDZero digital, okay, the latency is 1 millisecond more than analog. It's 4 to 6. Analog maybe 3 to 5. So if I go into 90, the experience is even better than the analog. So people never feel that way. Yeah.
So you're having more custom silicone in this. You've got more of your own. Is it another ASIC you've developed for the goggles?
No, the current ASIC. The current
ASIC. So you're going to use the current ASIC for that. That's. You were saying for the driver though. Is that a new a new chip for the driver? You said the driver chip. Are you developing that yourself?
No, I do everything. That is not a new chip.
So you're going to do everything from the current ASIC, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's backward compatible. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. The third reason is I watch your video. All the analog goggle right now, because they're using my display chip, right? That display chip doesn't have the deinterlacer inside. Yeah, my own goggle, I will have the deinterlacer integrated, which means the video will not jumping up and down. So you will have better experience even with HDZero goggle for analog input.
It is interesting that we forget at times, and partly I'm going to blame you for that video actually, because I was flying HDZero so much when I went back and looked at analog, I was going, oh my God, what am I looking at here? But it is interesting when you talk about that analog interlaced behavior that we still very much tolerate in FPV today. We're years beyond this. You know, we moved to progressive television 20 plus years ago, didn't we? Yeah. And we're still tolerating interlaced, all of the horribleness that comes with that in FPV. So that sounds fantastic. So how's the progress going on the goggles? Are you on schedule? You know, is there anything you can share time-wise? Are we weeks, months at this stage? What's your thoughts?
Okay. So we almost finished the plastic design, and the circuit design is already started. So we are targeting on probably June. We will have June or July timeframe, we will have a prototype. So I think probably we can manufacture MP or at least PVT on September or August. No,
nice.
I don't know.
Yeah, so by this year, we're talking this year, aren't we? At this point, we are.
Oh, definitely. I think before August.
Wow.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Before October, I'm sorry. Yeah, before October. Yeah.
October. And the analog input on these, there's going to be no bay, but is it going to be a jack input, a 3.5, or are you going to put a module connector on the front? What's the thoughts on that?
So we will have an AV in, dedicated AV in, just like the Skydome goggle, Fascia goggle. And also we have a high-speed bay. It's not a bay, it's a jacket. Right, you can put a thing out and plug the module. The module. We designed a add-on thing, so you can put your Rapid Fire or TBS Fusion in. So right, and this AV is not like the DJI. The DJI they have put extra latency for the AV in, right? But we don't.
Yes. So, so it will just perform exactly the same as we would expect today.
It should be better than the current one because we have a deinterlacing inside.
Because you're deinterlacing as well. I know you're also working on a combined receiver for race applications as well, aren't you? You've been working on that in the background too, with analog and digital in.
Exactly. So, oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't send you the video. So I'm going to send the MultiGP on probably 7 days later. It's scheduled on May 8th. I will send them the event VRX.
Nice.
So the event VRX, one event VRX can receive 4-channel analog or 4-channel HDZero simultaneously, and each channel will output CVBS and HDMI simultaneously. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so that's going to really improve how we do events, because that's analog and digital as well. That receiver.
Exactly. Auto switch.
Auto switch, and so that's 4 of whatever, whether it be for HDZero or for analog. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter. It's output CVBS. Right. Yeah. And HDMI simultaneously. It's meaning when I receive the analog, but the HDMI will output the digital output.
Yes.
Right. So even there's a HDZero on the air, but the CVBS output on the VRX will output the CVBS signal. So this is make the race direct happen.
And I think you said to me on a message that it's also going to do the deinterlacing on the analog side as well. So it's going to not only make HD look better, but analog's going to look fantastic as well.
That's right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Wow. I think that's going to go well. You're going to see a lot of people be very interested in that. Now, so product-wise, is there anything you can share with us around the corner that is, well, I'm going to ask you if there's anything you can share with us that you haven't spoke about yet. Is there anything on a products-wise we don't know you got coming around the corner?
Okay, so the VTX, I probably done with the VTX. I will let the other manufacturers, they have more experience, and they produce more stable VTX than I do. And I will let them do that, to the VTX. So right now I'm focusing on the VRX, and the VRX with the display, and the VRX integrated into the radio controller and the goggles. Yeah. So that's what I'm working on. But more importantly, I'm working on the 2nd generation chip. That's I love to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that going to be a hard change? Because I know people are going to be, that's one question people will have. So will there be backwards compatibility on that, or is there going to have to be a hard stop on this to move forward, Carl?
Well, it's kind of the receiver, right? It has to be backward compatible with the current one.
Yes.
But the transmitter isn't. Yeah. I mean, the transmitter is different. But the receiver will, meaning
receiver will, and I like that's as fair as you can get. You at the end of the day, we all understand there's progress to be made, and we all understand things have to move forward. So at the end of the day, I think that's a good middle ground. You have the option of upgrading if you want to, but you can still use your existing.
That's right. Yeah. Well, that's I don't know. Yeah, but I'm a designer, and I have to do that.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Now, there's been a few controversial things over the last couple of weeks, and I know this side of things, Carl, you tend to not get, you're an engineer, and I know you've said to me before that you don't really get involved. We've had some comments from Fat Shark on the sales numbers of HDZero, which were a bit strange. I put out a video on that myself talking about some other data. I'm not going to say where that came from. And then we've had more recently some comments from, I think it was Tony at Immersion RC, Tony Cake, around HDZero making hardware which affects the other manufacturers. And I've got my own thoughts on that, but I just wanted to know what your thoughts on that was.
That's right. Let's back to 2019. When my first chip came out, I visited almost all the FPGA manufacturers in China, but I failed to convince any of them because they think DJI is too strong. Everyone who compete with DJI were dead. So the second one is HDZero is nobody. So carrying a new thing is too risky to them. Right. So, but thanks to Greg at Fat Shark, he decided to do the bite frost and the shark bite. And, but the response was not good. So in 2020, I was so, I mean, I don't know what to do. I didn't know what to do because I didn't know what to improve. Right, I don't. So about 12 months ago, I decided to stand up. I mean, stand in front of the pilots and let them guide me. So that's why I'm lucky. I'm a lucky man. So there's so many warm-hearted, pilots. They tell me you need to do that. You need to do that. So then we have the VRX VTX V2 and different cameras, even the Freestyle 1 watt and the wireless, those kind of things. So let me ask you a question or scenario you think about. If I don't do the VTX and the camera, if I hadn't do that, will the HDZero be live today? I doubt. So that's why I say, so Divimath making VTX and cameras is not because we want to, because we are forced to do that. And right now we are going to, we are going to let the other manufacturer do that, right? But what I want to say is that those VTX and the camera should be interpreted as a proof. So HDZero now is vital. It's an ecosystem you can jump in. It should not be interpreted as a stop sign, right? Yeah, that's my thought. Yeah. No, HDZero chipset is open to any manufacturers. We will provide a schematic, everything, even the manufacturer instructions. You know, the eyes thing, you need the eyes matching, right? And even the calibration, we will give those instructions free of charge to any manufacturer who is willing to do the VTX, right? We will give it out. We will help them from the design to the manufacturer, everything. And we will marketing it. I mean, we will promote their product, right? And Divimath will happily sell them the chipset only. I mean, yeah, that's a point. That's yeah.
It's some, I have my thoughts on the comments, and my perception of things was very simple. Under a current brand, the system had stagnated. We weren't seeing decent changes. We weren't seeing anything happen at a level what FPV would have liked. And then I remember you starting to appear on RC groups, Carl, yourself, and asking questions, and the system then, it is in a totally different place today than it was back then. And my feeling is it would never have survived if you hadn't done what you've done. But I just thought it was interesting that there is this perception that from certain manufacturers, and I said this to you off air, and I think if they're making comments, I think that probably means you're doing something right. And that's usually the way I would look at it. And I think HDZero and Divimath are doing a lot right now. There's always more. Carl, I am a critical person. I know we've spoke before, and I can be a complete pain in the ass. I'm not going to hide that fact. But I do what I do for the consumer and what I think is right. And if I think something's wrong, I'll say it. And if I think it's right, I'll say it. And I'll be honest, I don't see anything you guys are doing wrong right now. I think everything you've done makes sense. All of the products you've released are well liked. The reliability is there now. Early days, yes, reliability was up and down. But yeah, you've openly said you weren't in this to make hardware. So we understand that, and it's taken a bit of time. But yeah, it was interesting. And just further on that, I know there was also a bit of noise on the dealers, on the margins thing as well. I don't know if you want to mention anything on that one. I think you've addressed that now, haven't you?
Yes. So HDZero need support from the reseller more than anybody else. But HDZero, margin for the reseller it is low. It was low. It's even lower. So it was 15% about 6 months ago. And right now, the VTX and the camera, it is 20% and almost 23% for the VRX. It's still lower than than the other FPV pad products. But this is the best offer I can give right now. It's because of two reasons. Number one is because the BOM. Right. If you look at the HDZero VTX and the analog VTX, you can tell how complicated is that. So the BOM is high. The other one is HDZero manufacturing is high. Cost is high. You can tell we are not good at manufacturing at all. So manufacturing cost is high. So I'm thinking the manufacturing cost from our point of view is already become lower because the margin is improved from 15% to 20% right now. And it will continue to lower. And also the pandemic and the IC shortage, well, eventually it will be over, even in China. I think, right. So in summary, the margin is low, but we are trying our best. I think, it's not fair. I mean, for some reseller, they have like low margin than the other FPV products, but I don't know what to do.
It'll come with time though, and I suppose it's interesting you've mentioned BOM. It's something I've been very vocal on with digital. Period. People saying we want digital to be the same as analog, and it's going to be very hard for that to happen. If we just look at the voltage regulation stages on your own VTXs, you got 3.3. I think you got 1.2, 3.3, 5.5s. Analog is very, very basic, and it's the same problem DJI face. It's the same problem everyone faces, that when it comes to having these digital ASICs and the whole digital subsystems, there is a lot more emphasis on power regulation and the need to provide clean and stable power at different voltages. And it's going to be really hard to make that go away, isn't it? That is inherent with digital systems.
Exactly. Think about using the DC converter. Before is a few, maybe a few dimes. Right now is a few bucks. It's almost 10 times up. So, and we use several of them. So once those kind of chip price is dropping, so we will get the reseller margin back. But at this moment, I don't want to lie. I want to keep them happy, but I do what I can.
Yeah, and I think it's a reality, and it's something I've spoke about before, and I've seen people say, when will we get the sub $50 VTX or sub $40 VTX, and digital is still today a premium product, and HDZero has done more than anyone, I think, to bring that down. There are times where DJI's pricing is lower, but they're leveraging very, very different capabilities. They're using that same chipset in almost all of their aircraft. They're able to offset their production. They can even do a loss because it's such a small market for them. It's not a problem for them. And frankly, I don't think they take it seriously. And I still think it's a engineering exercise more than anything else for them, simply because of what they've done.
Right. So for the HDZero, the Whoop Lite bundle, the Whoop Lite VTX 1S to 6S to 3S, and the Nanolite camera, and the Mipi cable, and the dipole antenna, it's less than $100. I think it's a good entry point for, So we tried our best. We tried our best. Not us, even the reseller, they contribute. Yeah,
and it's thing. Now I'm looking through my list of questions that I wanted to harass you with. Now I've got you, Carl, but I think I've covered it. I think. So, is there anything you want to? What's your plans for the future? Then you've got the new ASIC you want to work on. That's what you want to do. We've got the goggles around the corner. Where do you see things in 12 months' time, Carl?
Oh, well, in 12 months' time, I think I will expecting more VTX from the other manufacturers.
Yeah.
And I will see more VRX. I mean, in different forms, I already mentioned. And the goggle is there. And I'm not sure within 12 months I will have the new ASIC come out. You know, new ASIC, it's come out in years.
Yeah.
It's a long development.
Yeah.
Every tap out, I was praying. I need to pray for the tap out because it's a one-time job. Each tap out is $1 million US.
So, do you want to explain just what that is? So that's is that the mask and the first run? Because obviously you're an ASIC designer. That's a term I've heard, but I don't fully understand. So what is that process, Carl?
Okay, so our process is TSMC 40 nanometer.
Okay.
So the TSMC 40 nanometer is a full mask, photo mask.
Yeah.
It's around $1 million US. That's the cost.
And is that the mask and a production and a run, or was that just the mask?
Just the photo mask.
Just the photo mask is $1 million.
Right. So the photo mask probably with 100 chips.
Yeah.
It's expensive and it's a one-time job. You cannot fix that one. So if you made any mistake, you need to pay another $1 million for that.
Wow. Yeah, funny enough, I've been watching a channel which has been talking a lot about the UV lithography, and obviously you're not at that scale with the 14 nanometer, but it's been very interesting to see a lot of that and the mask sizing and everything, and it's something I've been learning a lot more about, actually. So I suppose your problem is you go to print is the term I would use, and if there's a mistake that can't be rectified, that's it. It's for the bin, then, is it? That's it, done, I suppose, on that mask.
Right. If it's a minor mistake, it can be fixed.
Yeah.
Like in gate level, but in general, it's not fixable. Meaning you need to do another iteration, which another at least half a year, and another $1 million. So
is the current chipset on that 14 nanometer process as well, Carl? Is that what the current one is on?
The IF chip, yes.
Okay.
That's why it's expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Yim, before you finish this video, can I say something?
Yes, absolutely.
I will take this chance to thank you, my testers, like Ryan Collett and Anthony Rival and Alf. I don't want to name them all. I want to tell a fact that they are volunteer their time to test for me. I don't even pay them anything. I just send them test unit. I can tell if they don't test it, the chip, the product it will be disaster. Like the VRX, I think the VRX this time it's great. It's no more time for me. So then I send to Ryan. Ryan told me a fatal problem, so we had to fix it. That's why we delayed the shipment of the VRX. So those testers, they give me suggestions. They volunteer their time, but they get nothing but the test unit. That's what I want to say. I'm telling the truth. I'm not right. I just want to. Some people accuse them they maybe get paid by me. I'm here. I say I pay them nothing. Ryan Colley told me probably in the 2021 he saw a video. He think this one is good for APV. This technology is good APV. He tried to save this technology. The reason he do that is because he want to save this technology, because he thinks this technology is good for this hobby. That's all. There's nothing more than that. So yeah, that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I was going to mention Ryan and the guys, and I want to say a big thank you to Ryan myself, actually. Ryan has been very supportive with me, communicating with you, Carl, as well, and Ryan is the one that's opened the doors on that, and he's a very, very good guy, and I know what he does, and I know the position he's in. I've been there before myself, actually, and yeah, I've had a few conversations with him about that stuff myself, and yeah, those guys are doing an amazing job. They've run in the Discord server. It's fantastic. For those who don't know, there is a really, really good Discord server for HDZero. You've got the Facebook groups, which are super active. There's loads of users, loads of people. There's a huge amount of interest out there right now in the system. You know, if we just look at Joshua Bardwell's video, it had over 90,000 views on the new Freestyle VTX, which is incredible. Wish I'd have done it myself. Yeah, you know, JB has really shown with that what the system is capable of as well. And, you know, Carl, they're doing a great job, and I know they're good people as well. So, yeah, it's good to hear that from you too.
Yeah.
Carl, I want to thank you for spending some time with me on a Sunday morning here and a Sunday afternoon over there on China. It has been an absolute privilege. It really, really has.
Thank you, Ian, for having me. It's my opportunity to have this interview. It's very important to me too. Thank you, sir.
So, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you are still here at this point to see the end. From me, it was a genuine honour to talk to Carl. He is one of the nicest and open people I have come across, period. Nothing was off the table. He was more than happy to discuss anything. For me, I'd written up a list of questions in advance. I had a bit of a slow start where I was sort of trying to get my feel for it myself, because it's been a while since I've done one of these interviews, but it was really good once we got into the swing of things to listen to what he had to say. And for me, it was about really allowing Carl the platform to be able to express his thoughts and his feelings. And it's hard not to come away and just see Carl's passion, not only for FPV, but for what he does as well. He isn't just someone who owns a company. He is the man behind this product, and it's really exciting to see what his plans are for the future. We had that discussion on the new ASICs that he's thinking about now. This isn't stuff that's 6 months or 1 year or even 2 years away. Carl is an ASIC designer, so he's always thinking about what he can do next, how he can improve things, and it's going to be really interesting to see that develop over the next couple of years as well. That isn't to say, though, what we have today isn't going to be changed, improved, because he is really working hard on the projects that he's got going on at the moment, including the new HDZero goggles as well. And we did have a bit of an off-the-record chat afterwards, and I am really excited of what I've heard, and I'm sure you guys are going to be too when that info is out there. I hope you have found this video useful. I really, again, want to stress a big thank you from me to Carl. And I also want to echo the words Carl said about some of the testers on HDZero as well, including Ryan. These guys do what they do for free, but they don't only test the system, they help run the Discord server, the face groups as well. And today's interview would not have been possible without Ryan's support as well. So again, I want to echo Carl's thanks to you guys, but also my own as well, because we wouldn't have the system we have without your support. Anyway, please do let me know what you think in the comments. Please do stay safe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will speak to you guys again soon.